Tess left the coffee shop and headed towards her limo. She wasn't looking where she was going and almost ran into Malcolm Malone. He remarked that he was hoping to run into her, just not so literally. Tess apologized. Malone waved it off and mentioned it wasn't the first time that day he was run down from someone from the Daily Planet. Tess asked him about his interview with Lois Lane. Malone answered that he once interviewed a dictator who was less hostile. Tess remarked that Lois may have the charm of a bulldog, but she's her best reporter. Malone suggested Tess make it up to him by going out to dinner with him. After some hesitation, Tess agreed to go out with him. The shadowy figure walked into a room and pulled out the package he took from the dead thug. He opened it and pulled out a relic with Kryptonian writing on it. He took the relic and inserted it into a machine that glowed green and whirred for a few seconds before powering back down. He said, 3 more stones and you'll be ready. Clark stood in the shadows on the roof of the building opposite the Daily Planet. From there, he watched Tess emerge from the building on the arm of Malcolm Malone. Clark wanted to reach out to Tess, but he knew she would still be angry with him for leaving her behind twice. She forgave him for disappearing to the alternate world without her before, but then he did it again and stayed away for 5 years. Clark watched as Tess got into a car with Malone. He couldn't blame her for not feeling the same after all this time, but he still didn't like seeing her go out on a date. After the car pulled off, Clark left the building and headed back to Suicide Slum. He was a working man now, and he couldn't be late for his first night on the job. Back at the bar, there were quite a few sloppy drunks in the room raring to go. Clark already had to shut down a couple of fights. One drunk was talking about what he would do to Clark Luthor if the Ultraman rumors were true. The drunk goes on to get a little handsy with a woman who was just trying to get a drink. Clark walked over and pulled him off the woman and flung him across the room. The bartender told him that wasn't the way to keep a low profile. Clark decided to take a break. Clark walked outside and pulled out his phone. He went to the Inquisitor's website and saw tabloid photos of Tess and Malone from earlier that night. The bartender came outside to check up on him and looked at his phone. She found it gross that he still had a thing for his sister. He reminded her that he was adopted. She still thought it was gross. Clark asked if she knew who the guy was. She said it looked like the new guy at Galaxy Communications. He asked if he had a name. She responded, "Am I Google? You have superpowers. Figure it out for yourself." Clark wondered why he ever liked her. She said for her irresistible charm. She told him to get back to work. There were 3 more fights brewing inside. Clark told her she needed to water down her drinks. She could make more money and have a better behaved clientele. She told Clark, ain't no such thing as a better behaved clientele in Suicide Slum, rich boy. If there was, you'd be out of a job.